So welcome to your Wednesday morning slow intentional flow. The intention today being to release lower back tension. A complaint that I have heard over and over and over again when you start to travel too much, when you're in the car, when you go away for a lovely baby moon weekend and come back and wonder whether it was worth it, and everything else. So as baby gets bigger, the psoas muscles start to take more strain. We will begin in something called constructive rest. Constructive rest, the weight of baby drops into the iliopsoas and naturally begins to lengthen out that muscle. These muscles are two very large muscles, as thick as your wrist, and they run from T12, L1, down the sphenius processes of the spine, spiral inwards and migrate to the inner thighs. Very important muscles, and they are sometimes the culprit for lower back pain. So if you have sacroiliac joint issues, take your blanket that you folded up and have your strap very close by, please. Roll onto your side first and then onto your back body, press into your feet. Lift your hips slightly, place the blanket underneath the hips and make sure that everything feels cozy and comfortable for you. Soften into the shoulders. Relax. Just going to mute everybody. Relax your front body. Allow your front body to drop deep into your back body. And no, don't worry, Beth, it wasn't you that wasn't muted. I'll do the muting. Amazing. Now, constructive rest is actually quite specific. Some of you will be knocking your knees in slightly or splaying the knees outwards. Heel toe your feet just a little bit away if they're right underneath the knees. Your perfect corsette. And then make sure that your knees are exactly hips distance apart, so they're not knocking in or out. This so that the iliopsoas align correctly. Relax your shoulders completely and begin to bring your awareness into your rib basket. Taking a few moments to connect with that deeper sense of self. How does my heart feel today? And then dropping your awareness into womb space. And getting that deep sense of a little life growing within you, for some of you quite big now. And we've had 3 exciting births in the last week. Annika birthed her baby naturally after 2 cesareans. This time last week, we did a class holding space for Erica, and she birthed a few hours later. In her words, a couple of big contractions, a cough and a giggle, and out came baby. And Greta, who described her early labor as fucking horrible. Sorry, there you go, you might have one of those, but active labor is empowering and a beautiful birth to follow. Our story is all so different, but we are here to achieve the same thing, which is to feel amazing, empowered, and in our own process through our births. Gently gather your right knee towards you and then take it just outside womb space and pull that knee in. Slowly lengthen your left leg now, pressing the heel away and long on the ground. Flex the left foot and then slightly inwardly rotate the left toe. This activates the iliopsoas on the inner line of the left thigh. Now draw that right knee in a little bit tighter and just listen to your hip. This is a very good way of releasing lower back. My advice is, if your tendency is to roll too much over to one side and you are not accessing both glutes equally on the ground, tendency for some of you will be to roll more to the right. you might want to either purchase or make sandbags or get a big rice bag and place it on the left thigh, and this will help you to stabilize through your whole body system. Keep your breath even and deep. If you feel that you are struggling with the breath, you can take 3 exhales long and slow out of the mouth, and this will turn on diaphragmatic breathing. Hopefully your strap is close enough that you can now reach for your strap and place it around your right foot. Hold the strap tight and slowly begin to lengthen your right leg. If you can grip your toe, great, good for you. Otherwise, just using a strap, tea towel, anything at all as you straighten that leg. If you really don't have a strap close by, it's totally okay, Beth. Yes, that will work. That will work perfectly. Beautiful. And then press up through the heel. Now, from here, you might want to take the thumb on your right hand, push it into the crease of the hip, rolling the thumb over the hip bone, push the thumb into the crease of the right hip, push hard and down. Where the hip and the waist, and now pull your leg closer towards you. What that did, yes, I can see the space made there for you, Perry. What that does is it presses the ball joint deeper into the hip socket so that when you push your thumb into the crease, you move a ligament down, and then that leg will become closer towards you and in a deeper sense. So pressing down and into that crease. Beautiful. And then you can just relax your hand. You've made that space that you're looking for, and we'll take quite a few more deep, full breaths in this shape. So Beth, experiment with your foot and begin to bring your toes towards, you knew what I was going to say, your toes towards your shins. So curl your toes. No, not the other way. Yes. And now draw down. And then hold the flex fully. So curl your toes towards your shin, Beth, and hold. That's it. And that's now going to engage the tissues along the back of the leg right down into the hamstring. The hamstrings are part of the complex with the iliopsoas that can be the culprits for lower back pain. 3 more breaths here. Quite intense on those hamstrings, Perry. It takes a little bit of effort. The hamstrings are going to have a full conversation. Hear them. Gently rebend your right knee. Grip the knee just below, or the shin, with 2 hands. And relax into the hip as you take 5 deep breaths back at your starting point. Allow for a deep internal softness to spread and radiate into that right hip. We're creating space, lots and lots of space. Hi, Ira, welcome back. Ira, you may as well stay slightly up. We're now changing position. Please bend your left knee and step your foot onto the ground. And gently roll over onto your left side. Roll onto your left side. Relax 1 breath. Then press your hand into the ground and come onto all 4s. If you still got your blanket on the mat, that's perfect. Your left knee will stay there. Now step your right foot forward, the one that you were using now, opening up the whole right side, and rock through that right hip a few times, backwards and forwards. Just hearing the story of the right side. When we move to the left in a moment, a completely different story will be revealed. Now deepen into that right side in your low lunge, and we're going to take a few long, deep breaths in the low lunge. If your right heel is popping up, then you need to Wiggle, walk your foot further forward so that the heel does not pop up. Your heel on the right foot should make complete connection with the mat. And as you come into the stillness of this shape, seeking that still point, hear your hips, listen. Breathe space into the body. We're now stretching through the iliopsoas, particularly on that left side, into the inner thigh. And this gives us space in the lower back so that everything begins to settle. Beautiful. Again, we're going to move into the hamstring with a bit of a forward fold. This will stretch out the lower back even more. Shift the weight of the hips back. Wiggle walk your right foot forward. Flex the right foot. Keep the hips high and try and straighten the right leg as much as possible. If you're using blocks, place your hands on your blocks. If you're not using blocks, take your hands forward as far as you can. Keep the spine long by lifting through the chest first, and then slowly, slowly engage length through the spine continuously as you begin to fold. Try and encourage that length, but invite the weight of the torso to deepen just to the inside of that right leg. The stronger you flex your right foot, the deeper the stretch will be. There's another way to engage, and that is to squeeze the right heel and left knee, slightly tractioning them in towards each other. And this invites the fascia into the stretch as well as the muscle. And it can feel quite good. But you're going to see where your end range is, and you're going to listen to deep into the body to notice where your sticking point is, where you should not go any further. Beautiful. Walk both hands a little bit over to the left side. Swing your left foot over the right long edge of your mat so that it's perpendicular. And then walk your right palm down the line of the right leg. And then spread your left palm out in a wide V shape. Caterpillar your blocks or fingertips forward. Keep length once again. The flex of the right foot with a slight outward rotation of the right little toe. So don't let the right foot fall inwards. Take the right little toe and outwardly rotate it slightly. Then from here, think about sinking the chest and relaxing your head. It's a deep stretch we're exploring here. And we're now taking it into the inner hamstring. There's 3 strings to the hamstrings. 3. Slight outer, center, and inner. And we're targeting the inner now. Beautiful. Walk your hands back, sit down on your left heel. Now, one of the ways of ensuring that the lower back can take the pressure of a baby is to strengthen it. Place your left palm on the ground behind you and slowly lift the pelvis, nudge it upwards, lift your baby, reach your right arm over and take 3 full breaths, strengthening your back body. Feel strong and secure in that left arm, and we're also opening the round ligament on that right side. Gently come on down. Bring both knees together, turn to face the front of the mat, and immediately you're going to press back into a downward facing dog. Now, if your shoulders are rounding up and you can't get your back straight, bend your knees generously, root the heels towards the ground, then press the heart towards the thighs slightly. From there, you can think about straightening the knees, only if the spine maintains its integrity and length. 3 breaths. Focus on your exhale breath, maybe allowing the exhale to move through the mouth. Continuing to find that spinal integrity, lengthen the spine, which helps to settle the lower back.
We're actually in downward facing dog, relaxing the psoas muscles. They can sort of hang out here as our shoulders and legs work hard, and the weight of baby gently softens and drops downwards slightly. There's all pressure off the psoas muscles. That's why this pose is so good for helping a baby flip if you've got breech. Gently come down onto hands and knees, 3 breaths in cat and cow, listening into the lower back. If your back is super tight and painful, don't drop the belly too deep. Keep it semi-neutral in the lower back, but on the rounding out, really engage through the rounding of the spine. So you'll only take it as deep as the lower back is happy to go. Amazing. Let's take it onto our back body once again to do the other side. So come on down, and if you wish, placing your blanket underneath your sacrum, you don't have to. If you're using your blanket as a strap, then maybe don't worry about it. Make sure that your strap is close by, which mine isn't. And come back into constructive rest. Constructive rest being specific. Hip bones and inner thighs aligned. Heels aligned with the seat. Knees neither flopping out nor inwards. Directly in line with your hip bones. Heels slightly away from the level of the knees and arms relaxed by your side. 5 more deep breaths as we allow the weight of baby to drop into the psoas muscles, relaxing those muscles that gather tension from sitting, from traveling, emotional tension, from stress and fear, because the glands, the adrenal glands are above the kidneys, and every time you have spikes of adrenaline from stress, it translates because the psoas muscles lie on top of those adrenal glands. So the psoas are the first big muscles to pick up your stress. And that's why we get lower back pain. Gently gather the left knee out to the side slightly, then in towards the outer edge of the uterus. I like to wrap my left elbow around the right shin and then grip my left wrist with my right hand. And then from there, pull in quite tight. However, some of you will prefer to interlace the palms and bring the interlace below the knee. You choose. Slowly slide your right heel away until the right leg is long. You'll feel the iliopsoas, where the psoas picks up the ilio into the inner thigh, and rotate the right toe slightly inwards. It's a micro movement, but it engages the muscle correctly. For 3 more breaths, continue to draw that left thigh down and out towards the rib basket. Really enjoying slowing everything down, slowing down the momentum of life and becoming completely engaged with your body. It's heaven when we take these moments to just be completely in the body, not servicing other people, not doing all the myriad things that we think that we need to do, just being in this space. Hallelujah. Take your strap, place it around that left foot, and slowly begin to lengthen the left leg up. If you want to find that little bit of depth, then you'll hold the strap with your right hand, take your left thumb, push your left thumb into the crease of the hip, so the thumb will roll over that little bony protrusion of the hip bone, and then deep into the crease of the hip, where you'll find that there's a little ligament that when you press down, suddenly when you draw your left leg closer towards you, there's a whole lot more space. Then relax, holding the strap with either 2 hands or 1. 2 is often better, and relax the shoulders. Keep engaging length. You want to try and rotate your toes towards your shins rather than the sky. This will invite the stretch deeper into the hamstrings. If your hamstrings are literally screaming and screaming torture, you'll want to bend your left knee slightly to give a little bit of relief to the hamstring. And then once you've bent that knee, keep the engagement, but don't lock out the knee. And this allows the hamstring time to stretch without pain. Remember, this is called touching our edges. And we need to become really intelligent about where our edges are so that we're not trying to force the body into edges that they're not ready to go to. In other words, we're treating our whole body complex with a bit of sensitivity, but neither are we afraid of sensation and intensity. 5 more breaths. So Perry, your left side, which is the feminine side, is having a much deeper conversation with you today than your right side was. The right side was like, okay, I can handle this for a bit longer. The left is definitely in conversation with you. Harsha, your hamstrings have really begun to release since you started yoga again. There's like this deep release in the hamstrings. Melinda, have you still been running? Okay, then from here, I can see those runner's legs, Melinda. From here, you can slowly begin to bend your knee and interlace your hands around that left shin, or just wrap your elbow, or you can even use your scarf over the thigh, whatever feels good. Take a few moments, allow for the settling, soften into the pelvis. We often don't realize how much tension we hold in the pelvic floor muscles, and I know that I harp on about this a little bit because in the modern female pelvis, because of our addiction to chairs, we have too much tension in the pelvic floor muscles, which means that our pushing stages have become longer than they should. If you can learn to release that tension, you can experience ejection reflex. If there is too much tension in the pelvis, ejection reflex cannot be a possibility. Ejection reflex is when the baby hits the pelvic floor and the body goes through this massive reflex where it just expels your baby for you. You don't have to do any pushing. And what a wonderful way to birth. But that won't happen unless your pelvic floors and muscles are relaxed enough. Bend your right knee, place the foot on the ground, bend in your right knee, and then gently roll over to your right side. Take a few moments lying on the right side, just a breath or two. Before pressing a palm into the ground and gently coming onto all fours. You might want padding underneath the right knee, in which case you'll leave your blanket on your mat. And then step your left foot forward and rock your lunge backwards and forwards several times. From here, deepen down into the shape that feels best for you in the low lunge, where we're going to take some time to drop deep into that left hip and listen to her story. Her story being the history of the hips. Our history could be ancestral as well. We can carry our mother's wounding and our grandmother's wounding. And our jobs are to transmute the generations to create clarity and open the way for the next generation. They don't have to come with your wounding, your grandmother's wounding, if you are conscious about release. Let's take 3 more breaths, listening in to her story. Feminine side is this left side, right side masculine. moving intentionally, slowly and gently move the hips back. Wiggle walk the left toes forward. Flex the left foot, maybe slide the heel a little bit more. Now to set up. Keep the flex of the left foot, press the chest open and long, and then begin to find the depth. Keeping as much length as you can through that left leg. Continuing to keep an open curiosity in the body, in what's arising for you, in the emotions, the images. Our bodies are incredible. They're like water. Impressions are made within the body, and the body is an ocean of its own, really. We are made up of so much water. And these impressions embed into the whole body system our full story. And when we work intentionally with our story, we are then in our sovereign power to also be able to change the story. And this is what happens with each birth. When you're on baby 1, 2, when you're on baby 2, you can start to change the story. And as we saw with Annika in her powerful birth, she changed the story of 2 Caesars against all the odds into one of triumph. Because of intentional working through all of the cans and can'ts and into possibility. Walk both hands over to the right side more, swing the right foot over the long edge of the mat, and then slide your left arm down the length of the left leg, slide your right arm out in a wide V shape, and soften the chest down, relax your head, and feel the change of the inner pull of the hamstring. Keep breathing grace and ease into the body. For some reason in this shape, it feels as though the breath can be full and expansive. Take advantage of that. Fill your silhouette with the breath. Walk your palms back. Sit down on your right heel. Place your palm to the ground behind you and lift your pelvis. Be sure that everything feels good, that your arm is capable, that it feels okay for your lower back, that you feel empowered here, not afraid. Gently bring it down and come onto all fours. Several breaths through cat and cow. Now integrating your 2 stories, left hemisphere, right hemisphere, masculine, feminine, finding an integration point where we invite comfort, awareness, balance to both sides of our being. Spread those fingers. We're taking it into a downward facing dog, lifting the knees and pressing the hips back. You can move your blanket away now and to the side if it's still on your mat. Making space in the pelvic floors for birth. Pelvic floor muscles have the ability to be strong, resilient, but also very flexible, capable, and open. Step your feet as wide as your mat, rotate your toes outwards, walk your hands back. Slowly lower the hips into a deep squat. There is no need for crazy Kegels at so 90s in pregnancy. You do not know when you're pulsing the pelvic floor muscles up, thinking that you're strengthening. You don't know whether you're creating even strength on both sides. And very often, pelvic floor muscles will tighten more on one side than the other because we already have imbalances in the body. Squatting is what is needed for the pelvic floor muscles in birth, not crazy Kegels. You can do as many crazy Kegels as you want, pelvic floor muscle exercises, and think that you're doing yourself a favor. You are not. Our pelvic floor muscles have to work both ways. There has to be some sense of being able to lift and strengthen, but strength works both ways. It's a muscle that can lift up and it's a muscle that can expel. So if you have yoni eggs, use your yoni eggs for pelvic floor exercise. Pop the egg in, draw it up to the cervix, and then also practice bringing it all the way down to the perineum. And that is where true strength comes from. Being able to use your pelvic floor muscles for upward, gentle lift as well as downward expulsion. Your yoni eggs will give you the other advantage of toned pelvic floor muscles, which are amazing for a really good orgasm. If you have tension in your pelvic floor muscles, ladies, orgasm, 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 have one every day and you will birth great. Fingertips to the ground, lift your hips, parallel your feet, walk your palms forward, and then just rock out the knees. So walk them out side to side. Beautiful. Now working with strength and alignment of the pelvis, look at your left palm, step your left foot where your left palm is, rotate your right heel inwards. We're in a warrior one foundation. Anchor firmly through the outer rim of that right foot, engage the quad. Phoenix wings to flight. Spread your fingers, inhale as you rise. Exhale, intentionally bring your wings back, squeeze between the shoulder blades as you draw the arms down, elbows in towards the waistline. Inhale, relax the spine and curl forward. Sweep your arms. Exhale, squeeze and bring it down, working our tension through the upper back as well. Once more. Own your space. Beautiful. Take both hands to the top of your hip bones and check that your right hip isn't skewing back slightly. Then look at your fingertips as you point your fingertips towards the front of your mat and square off your pelvis so that your fingertips are in line and the heels of the hands touching the rim of the hips. Take your palm and one finger and place it at the top of the pubic bone. Pull your pubic bone up. It's a little scoop up to the base of the uterus. This is really important for pelvic alignment. I know I'm being pedantic today, but when we go into a flowy class again, you want to keep these same principles. Now reach both palms high. Pubic bone continues to engage to the base of the uterus. We're not tucking the tailbone, can't stand that. We're just engaging through the base of the uterus. Beautiful. Creating strength. The strength that we create through our legs will support the spine and the lower back. The stronger you get your legs, the more support you give your spine, and the less pain you will have. Beautiful. Turn your heart slightly to the right and spin your right toe, heel in slightly. Reach your palms forward in that wide V shape. Left shoulder scrapes the inside of the left knee. Relax your head and keep the perpendicular shape in that left leg. So keep the knee bent. Feel that hip. Straighten the left leg. Walk your hands back a space and then shift the weight of the hips slightly to the left. 3 deep breaths. No cardio today, no need for the heartbeat to rise. We're simply working into yumminess. Walking the palms back slightly, step your left foot back, you're back in your downward facing dog. Find that length, enjoy the space in the lower back, enjoy. Step your feet as wide as the mat, walk your hands back, and slowly come on down and into your squat once again. Just feel, notice, is it comfortable? Is it uncomfortable? Is the body not happy? Or are you feeling like, yeah, this feels quite good? This space. If there's a feeling of cement, you need to do these more and more often. If it feels like you get stuck somewhere, it should be easeful. Your whole body should feel a sense of ease, the upper body relax, the ability to move in a primal movement pattern in these squats. Lift the hips, walk the palms forward, you're back in your downward facing dog. Find strengthener once again. Right foot, step it forward. We'll do add-ons this time though. Left heel spins inward slightly. Phoenix wings to flight. Once you trace an outline of feet to earth, inhale, spread those fingers. This reaches into the fascia. Exhale, squeeze between shoulder blades, burn down. Take your time. Expansive breath, expansive movement. Feel good in your body. If you catch a wobble, think about your foundation and you'll feel strong again. After the third pass, place the heels of the hands on the hips, point your fingers forward and check. My left hip is definitely skewing, so I want to bring my left hip forward so that my fingertips are level. Then from here, my pubic bone so that the lower back doesn't overarch. This is very important for lower back pain. Lift the pubic bone slightly. This engages the pelvic floor muscles as well, so that instead of hanging out in the joints, letting everything flop out, we're engaged. Reach your palms high. Strong breaths. Warrior attitude. Soft shoulders, no hard shifting eyes. Place your hands on your hips. Spin. To face the long edge of the mat. Rotate the toes outward. Place your hands above the knees. Come on down. Wide goddess. This shape can be your best friend in active labor. It helps baby descend. It gives you a sense of strength. It opens the breath. It can take intensity out of the spine between surges, and it can move labor along. Let's say you've just had a big surge. You can now spin one shoulder over to the opposite side and twist, taking tension out of the spine. Remember, surges are big, they're full, the muscles are working hard. We want to remove the tension between surges. The space between surges is the magic. And then spin your shoulder over the other way. And how you use those spaces between surges can be the difference between a happy and rhythmic labor and a labor that is unhappy, bitty, uncomfortable. Come back to center. Now, find your power, Kali Goddess. Sink the hips, place your hands to face receptively up, elbows by the hips, and hold. Deep Kali breaths. Remember, pubic bone lifts up to the base of the uterus. You're not sticking your butt out with baby spinning over. Stay in your strength, stay in your power. You can be here. We are power. The paradox of being a woman, we need to find our strength, but we also need to understand how to let go and be soft, soft, soft. But there are moments when you will have to call on every ounce of your strength in labor. This is the joy of labor. It takes us to our limits, but this is where we can find our perfection, preparing us for the motherhood journey ahead. 3 more breaths. You can do this. There could be a shiver, there could be a shake. You can do this, you can do this. The mind gives up before the body. Straighten the legs. Inhale, reach your arms high. Breathe 3 deep breaths into your star. Rotate your right toes inward slightly, rotate your left, feet are now parallel. Press the hips back, fingertips forward, palms come to the ground. Bend the knees if the hamstrings are feeling it. Otherwise, relax the chest downwards, relax your head, and take some deep breaths. Keep a little bit of outward pressure into the outer rims of the feet so that the inner arches turn on and lift. This in turn lifts the inseam of the legs as well. Again, an opportunity to experience the breath through the whole body silhouette. This is also a very good shape in labor if you're leaning over a piece of furniture with the legs wide. It's a stable shape, it creates space for baby. A slight forward lean also brings baby correctly into the pelvis. Your partner can give you thigh rolls and sacral squeezes here, which you've learned from the couple workshops. Really great shape to feel that you're in control. Do not lie on your back, ladies. That's a ridiculous way to labor. Walk your hands back. Spin your gaze to the front of the mat. Feet to the back of the mat. Gently come onto all fours. Cat and cow. Notice how your lower back is feeling now. Notice. Beautiful. If the piriformis is tight in the hips tighten up the sacroiliac joints translate as pain. Let's release the piriformis. Slide your left shin forward, slide your right leg back, press into your fingertips either side of your body, tuck your right toes under and pick your knee up off the ground. Strengthen the right leg so you can feel your right glute turn on and then pulsate by pressing back into the right ball of the foot several times and drawing the hips down. This is going to create space in the pelvis so that now when we lay that right thigh down and flip the toe, come onto the forearms if you have space with baby, and check that your hips are more or less even, and then soften. Just beneath the piriformis is a little ligament called the ischial tuberosity. It's an ischial ligament, which means that the ischial bone, the seat bone, and the bone coming out towards the hip. It's a small ligament, but sometimes it can act more like a bone. But in birth, it needs to have a little bit of stretch in order to create that bit of space to get baby's head through the pelvis. If that ligament holds on too tight, the piriformis becomes stressed, the sciatic nerve pinches. We want to create space in that whole area so that as baby's head is coming through the cervix, there's no impediment. There's nothing holding tight. You have the space. You can create the space around baby's head, and that ligament won't hold like a bone structure, but rather it'll act like the ligament it needs to be and soften out enough to create that space that we're looking for. And this is one of those shapes that helps that ligament, gives it the information through the neurology of the system. It gives that ligament the information that actually It's okay to stretch. But because, again, of our linear way of moving, walking, sitting, this ligament forgets its job. So we're retraining it right now. Place your hands on the ground and gently shift your weight back, coming onto all fours. Spend a moment in your tabletop to feel the flow through that left side. It's both blood flow and lymphatic. Where you feel deep inside warmth, that's blood. The lymph is slightly cooler, so you may feel a slightly cooler sensation towards the skin. In other words, we're becoming intimately involved in our body because, after all, we're creating a baby. That intimacy is essential. Slide your right shin forward, left leg back. Press into your finger pads, lift through the chest slightly, tuck your left toes under, elevate the knee, and pulsate. If the fascia isn't given the information in the body that it can engage, hydrate, and help with release, then you've got nowhere to go because the fascia will just hold tight. So now we've engaged the fascia, hydrated, release, and we can come forward. And now our full community within the body of the fluids, the tissues, the fascial tissues, the muscle, the soft tissues, the ligamentous tissues, they're all in coherent communication. And in that coherence, we can experience deeper release. Because we're working on all the different levels instead of just unconsciously plonking ourselves down into a shape and hoping for the best, which isn't the greatest approach for labor either. We want to do a little bit of preparation for that journey. Again, your left and right could be behaving completely differently, or maybe not. But very often, because of our habitual patterning, they will tell a different story. Beautiful. Just communicating to the ischial tuberous ligament that it is so welcome to find a little bit of play, a little bit of stretch. Pressing hands into the mat, gently sliding that right shin back. And just work out the hips a little, maybe small circular movements this time, feeling into the flow on that right side. Doing what feels good. Nice. Our final shape is going to invite baby's weight to come off the pelvic floor muscles, which can be just the ticket for releasing lower back pain. So I'm going to place a cushion that I've just grabbed off my couch. Hopefully you guys have something that's a little bit elevated that you can use. I would like a little bit more elevation, so I'm also going to place my blanket over my cushion. And then from here, the pelvis will be elevated slightly on the cushions. Make sure that the floating ribs, the last 2 or 3 ribs, can just catch against the cushion as well. Wiggle out the shoulders slightly, and then drop the pelvis. Let it really settle into the cushions. What will happen once you're in the shape is that the weight of baby will slide into the viscera, the internal organs, the diaphragm a little bit. And so your breath is going to change. Let it change, let it find its own rhythm again, but then bring the focus to the pelvic floor muscles. Without the weight of baby on those muscles right now, it's going to feel pretty good. So Towards the end of pregnancy, as baby gets really big, there's constant pressure on the bladder. There's constant pressure on the pelvic floor muscles. You will sometimes experience some dysfunctions and leakage within the bladder. This isn't necessarily because your pelvic floor muscles are fucked. It really isn't. It can sometimes be because you have a huge baby with a whole lot of amniotic fluid all pushing into the pelvic floor area. But when relying on our back like this, it's quite a revelation, because now with the relaxation of the pelvic floor muscles, there's so much reorganization that can happen in the body, and it can sometimes take the pressure off the bladder even when we come out of this shape. So doing this shape once a day, coming up towards the birth, can be a really good way of managing that intense pressure on the internal organs. It also helps us to relax the pelvic floor muscles enough so that perhaps we can actually achieve our ejection reflex with the pushing stage of labor. And even if we don't achieve that, it'll make sure that the pushing stage is a lot easier, because we've understood that it's okay to relax the pelvic floor muscles. Often we're in a neurological patterning that creates enormous tension in the pelvic floors, from distrust of ourselves, our body, our bodily functions. All of those patternings can translate into tension in the pelvic floor muscles. So right now we're releasing that tension. We're letting the pelvic floor muscles know that they are safe. It's okay to let go when they need to, even though the patterning may have been for contraction for so long. Keep breathing a little bit more space into that area, just enjoying it. And the slight elevation of the hips can also be heaven on the lower back as well. We'll take another 5 or 6 breaths here. Pull into the pelvis. There's something else happening as well. The sympathetic nervous system runs through the back body, the parasympathetic through the front. The parasympathetic is, it controls your stress levels, being able to come down to rest and digest. The sympathetic encourages activity throughout the day, but when we're in continual sympathetic activation, sleep is hard, rest and digest is hard. Right now, the sympathetic nervous system channels through the horse's tail of nerves at the base of the spine are getting information that you can relax, like really relax. This is why lower back massage feels so good. The sympathetic nervous system can sometimes get overactive, and right now it's in a state of relaxation. Heaven, absolute heaven. Gently roll over to your left side, slide your cushion out from underneath you, place the cushion between your thighs, take your blanket, slip it underneath your head, cushion between the thighs, blanket underneath your head. Relax your spine, let your hips settle. Shavasana, relaxation pose. Once you've got yourself comfortable, come into your breath and just feel into the ebb and flow of your breath, your natural breath, for a few cycles. Each exhale giving information to the body that it can relax some more. Shoulders are softening, face is relaxing. And gently moving into our light meditation, an important practice, daily practice, called a daily sadhana, where we can draw the breath in, and on the back of that breath, imagine light. And this light flows through your body, envelops baby, light winds of the breath, washing through you. Feeling the body fill with lightness, Feeling baby surrounded by light. Feeling the softening this light brings, the sense of safety, the sense of wholeness and connection to divine potential. And as the body fills with light, allow from the heart the radiance of gratitude to move through these channels of light, touching every cell of your being, washing through the neurons of the brain, washing out the sludge, the negativity. Light and gratitude fills you. This gratitude so expansive, it becomes prayer. Moving outside of the confines of the body, this gratitude, prayer, out into the ethers. Your radiance moving outwards until it touches the center of our universe. We are one, we are whole. We choose freedom and we walk in the light. Namaste, my friends. I will see you next time. Take as much time as you need in your Shavasana.